coffee shop. Everything's cool. Go ahead. Just put the glasses on.
I don't know, Mark. Maybe I don't want to know. You know, this is pretty freaky stuff you're talking about. All right, you're my friend and I trust you. I'm going to put these glasses on. Hand me those glasses.
Here, okay.
Okay.
Not a problem.
Put them on. What, are you kidding me? How long has this been going on? That thing is horrendous.
No, I know, Tom. In fact, look, there's one on that woman's shoulder, too. It looks like kind of a giant slug with like an octopusy kind of mouth that's just stuck.
Christ, it looks like it's got false teeth. It's so big.
And the way it's boring in, it's kind of scary, isn't it?
Oh, it looks like a ball worm.
Not
Does
Tom.
anybody else know about this?
Tom, a lot of us do. We've all been paying attention for a long time. You'll notice, look on the one...
Well, how did you find out about this?
Well, Tom, okay, relax, Tom. Remember, we're all thinking. We all know what's going on. I've been watching this all the while. You and I have been sitting here as they've been coming and going. But, you know, the way to find out how I found out and got the glasses, I went to Live 365. And then I tuned into Libertytreeradio. In fact, I found there are other places like pbn.4mg.com.
I'm really worried about this. I'm really worried about this because this has been going on for a long time.
Oh, I know, Tom. Tom, look at that one over there. The one tentacle says neocon, and the other tentacle says liberal, and they're wrapped right around that word.
And the other one says Democrat. Ah!
Isn't it? It's hideous, I know, Tom. But after a while, you get used to it. I've been wearing these glasses for a long time, and you can see everything now. You notice, look at these other people. It's almost like they're in
These are definitely not rose-tin glasses. I don't want to see anymore. I feel like the spirit of Christmas past has just come here. I'm really upset.
Oh, but Tom, once you put the glasses on, and now that you know, you can never go back to sleep.
I know.
Okay, Tom, I'll tell you what. When we go home, I want you to get on the computer, and I want you to go to Live 365, punch in Libertytreeradio. Then you can go to libertytreeradio.4mg.com, or you can go to pbn.4mg.com. But you know what, Tom? Like I said, calm down, start to get focused.
Oh, the closet monster lives.
Oh, yes. In fact, look at that one over there. Oh, man, that guy looks like death warmed over, doesn't he? His eyes are starting to roll back. If you take the glasses off for a second, Tom, you notice something? They look perfectly normal. Put the glasses on and keep them on because you never know what's coming up behind you. Let me check. Hey, oh my God! Oh, Tom! Okay, Doc, there's one. He's trying to get hold of your throat. Tom! Okay, Doc. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, okay, I got him. It's okay. I got. Oh, man, this is.
I invented the internet. I'm telling you.
Oh God! Oh, I'll get him. It's one of those gore things. Oh. Okay, you're safe now, Tom. We got to get out of here. Let's go.
Okay.
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MaineMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we'd hoped you'd always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun, permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm and keep our country deep in debt, put men of God in jail, harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn, and your daughters visit doctors so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear and be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. Pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Kornke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, southwest, east, northeast, and south. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to us on Libertytreeradio.4mg.com, Liberty Tree Radio live stream on YouTube, and we are on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and Ultranet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in lower 49, including the great state of Jefferson, CONUS, the outlying two states, the territories, and the clock. It is 5:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is Tuesday, Communications Tuesday. It is the 29th of September. It is the 12th year of open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist occupation of America with a K. 2020 Old Earth calendar. 2020 Battle for the Republic, the Dance of Swords. You're living the dream. Congratulations. Ching! There we go. And now that it's out of the sheath, make sure that you've mastered it and master the battlefield. We are at war. And it is Communications Tuesday. Semaphores, don't forget. Flags are not obsolete, neither are spotting beacons, Morse code type signaling with lights. All the other low-tech works just fine, especially if it's focused, so it really can't be intercepted. There are all kinds of tricks in the old trade that are just as good as anything with the new. In fact, better because it's out of their loop. Always remember that. The idea behind this is to completely baffle them by misdirection and, in the process, proper use and abuse of technology. We have all kinds of resources. We just got to make sure we know how to use them. Master the trade. Anyway, a couple things on. First of all, we got to defend everybody. Yes, I'm always mentioning this for a reason, because you just never know what you're going to be lucky enough to run into. But keep an eye on AIM surplus. Of course, everybody has been hawking them, because I know they've told me, yeah, they've seen an increase. So I think our focusing people that way has kind of helped a little bit. But there's a few calibers out there, chambering options, that if you have a gun on the shelf, I cannot emphasize enough, buy the living snot out of whatever the hell it is they have, okay? What? Danger, Will Robinson. Warning, danger, Will Robinson. Attention. Was that enough of a fanfare? That's one of the old, you remember, one of the old movie production houses. Remember the trumpet? Yeah, if you don't, well, hey, hopefully I jogged your memory. You'll probably see on some old video if you pull out your library. But anyway, over at AIM Surplus, you have to do this now, and if you have to walk away from the program, I will understand it completely. If you got to leave, shut down and go to this. Norma, 9mm ammo. Norma, best quality ammunition in Europe. One of the top end anyway for the guy that can afford to shoot. $19.95 a box for 50 rounds of Norma 9mm Boxer Prime, non-corrosive, brand new manufacture. I do not see, maximum purchase 20 units. You can only buy no more than 20 boxes. Well, that's not a big deal. Most of you can't afford 20 boxes. However, $19.95 a box for 50 rounds of 9mm Parabellum 115 grain, standard round nose, so to speak. In other words, Parabellum ball. The ball that was standard since the middle of World War I. Not the original Parabellum round, by the way. For those of you who don't know history, originally, since everybody was going higher velocity and more energy and whatever, they also really did want penetration. And originally, the 9mm, when it came out in its forced production mode, was a conical AP round. Most of you have probably never seen one. I have many examples of World War I and pre-World War I 9mm Parabellum, German manufacturer I got from those World War I veterans I used to know. 1913, 1915, 1916. The early stages of the war and just before the war, the 9mm Parabellum had a pyramidal bullet, not the rounder ball round that you're all familiar with. And it was for one purpose, high velocity and armor penetration, going through things, going through an object to get to the soft, chewy stuff behind it. And they were very intent on that being the mission of the 9. You will find, if you have any World War I, well, not many World War I collectors, everybody knows it's like you got to find a treasure in a keepsake house now, like an estate sale, and it's hard to do that. But if you know anybody who collects ammo, they can show you some good examples. There are some excellent write-ups on it. Not as many as there should be, because they try to make you believe that what you see now is what's always been there. That's the stupidity of course, the next generation coming up and being lazy. So always remember that. It happens all the time. Don't worry. It's nothing new. Ain't nothing new. This group isn't any different from the last group, which ain't any different from the group before that. Okay, just that simple. So, anyway, considering the price for this stuff, which is not bad if you are, again, looking for a solution to your 9mm problem, over at aimsurplus.com. aimsurplus.com. And wow, again, you can't really beat I guess this is about as good a price as you're going to find right now for ammunition. I don't know where else to go right now. I went through everything last night, and I know there are some other places that have some 9mm, but almost all of it is well over $1 a round, or about $1, hovering around $1, and if it's below $1, the shipping is outrageous. I don't know if anybody has noticed. This is a typical Chinese technique now being used in America. It used to be around like this for a long time, but we're so used to the idea of companies posting the price plus the shipping in a lot of places that when you see it where you get, oh, look, it's under $1, all right, and then you get the shipping and it's, oh my God, it's over $1, oh no. So in this case, you're talking 39.9 cents per round. That's not the cheapest. But let me point something out. You're getting Norma ammunition, and this is very, very reliable, very, 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 and put another very in there, high quality. And I recommend it. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're listening and you need 9mm, you get two things out of the deal. More ammo, which means you got more ammunition to protect me and the people I know because we're all working together, right? But also you're getting a very high quality ammo. I would not shoot this, for instance, for training. I would retain this for battlefield ammo if all you've got is Boxer primed. I would be using the cheaper, like whatever you got, Federal for practice, training, whatever minimal you should be doing. You shouldn't be doing much shooting unless you're reloading. And even there, cast bullet, because you got to save these FMJ rounds for the body armor that's out there, okay? Wherever you can get through, and it won't go through everything, but hey, the FMJ does a better job than lead. Shoot lead for training, shoot FMJ for combat. If I had a bunch of FMJ, I'd take the cheapest stuff I had that was like oh, come on, what do we got out there that's Blazer? There might be some Blazer. Okay, maybe you got some Blazer in the inventory. Unless it's Blazer Gold or whatever the hell they call it. If you got Blazer ammo, shoot that. Don't waste the brass. Pick it all up. Even if it's the alloy casings, we can reload those. In fact, those reload so simple, it's ridiculous. Most people don't realize that. Those old, the alloy Blazer cases, keep them dry because they are designed to disintegrate. They are the lowest grade case in the industry, but save them. As long as you keep them dry, put them in a juice jug, gallon jug, dry it out, clean it out. Put the brass or the aluminum cases or the alloy, manganese cases in there, and we'll use them later. We'll do something with them if you won't, okay? But anyway, right now, over at aimsurplus.com, Norma, 9mm, FMJ, 115 grain, 50 rounds per box, limit 20 boxes per person. That's still reasonable. So if you're looking for 9mm, don't say I didn't find a better price. That's 39.9 cents a round, making it the cheapest 9 I've run into in the last 4 or 5 days. There was some stuff that they had at AIM that was $16 a box. This is why I got to watch. And that was, again, another Euro brand, but it was again, Boxer Prime, non-corrosive. They also get PPU in on a regular basis. You may have noticed that. As a matter of fact, I see that. There is some 7.62 by 54R reloadable brass Boxer Prime, non-corrosive, heat annealed, Prevy Partisan, $14.95 a box. If you got a Negat or if you've got any other rifles, some of you might have the old GE rifles. And you know what? This is superior ammunition for that rifle. If you've got the old GE manufactured Negats that were made here in the U.S., you want to baby them. Put some PPU ammo in it. You're going to be amazed at what it does. And again, it's just the ball ammo military is fine, but if you're going to shoot, now I'm going to go the reverse on this. You take some of the brass-cased ammo for a rifle, 20 rounds, and if you're going to teach somebody how to use an AGAT, those are the 20 rounds you teach with, and you don't just blaze away. Each round you focus and you work as an instructor with the student. You recover the 20 rounds. You mark the box for the rifle. You then turn around and you get some dies, and you reload that brass to that Negat only. It's fire formed. Seriously. These are where you're going to get learning advantages, and you've got a short time to get a lot of people up to speed. This is the way to do it. Also, there still is some Norma 32 ACP, certainly some 30 carbine ammo, and some OT-6. And I wanted to touch on that before I go any farther. I kind of perused all the different weapons, and I'm not a favoritist with regard to bolt guns because I love pretty much all firearms, and I've marketed at one time or another all the weapons pretty much that you see, except for the very, very, very newest. I used to be for instance, a Browning distributor, and I've handled Brownings you'll never see because some of the Brownings are so outrageously priced, it's like, oh, hell no. The same is true with many of the other upper-end brands. It's just, somebody might custom order something. Oh, I want that. Weatherby is like that. I've sold every Weatherby that exists up, through the 80s, okay? But that's a lot of stuff that you don't see now because they were top-end guns at $3,000 and $4,000 and $5,000 back when that meant even more value, okay? I sold, God knows, I think 46, 48 Weatherby 460 Weatherby Magnums, okay, in every variation from, grade, field grade for, elephant use or Cape Buffalo, whatever they were shooting in Africa, right on through. Why? Well, the guy who actually owned the store wanted it to be a top-end store, so he was willing to spend $500,000 on inventory eventually. That was his goal, to build it up to be like another gun shop that he'd had a couple decades earlier. That was great because we got a chance to actually handle things. Now, on the other hand, I think I moved, 100 and some Uzis, and when they came out, the Bs when they came out, and I had the best price in the state for them. I made a point of finding a source, and I cleaned them out. And every one of those went out into Allies through the shop. Everybody that needed them got them for a good price, and the customers were happy, and everybody's smiling and waving. So, yeah, I've pretty well done a little bit of everything there. Well, if you go over a classic, and again, I've shot a lot of them too, guys. There's so many guns that I've kept, and so many that I've just, let go down to, down the road to Allies, because I know if I give it to them for a good price, it stays in their collection. So in a roundabout way for, 50 years, you started collecting myself, and then would, move things out. I don't know how many K98 Mausers I've owned. I really would have to say it's just, the numbers are just so large, I just didn't care to count anymore. But over at Classic Firearms, www.classicfirearms, if you guys are looking for something where and you can buy used, don't forget that. You can buy used, and used is fine. You can buy used in bolt guns. There's a lot of them out there. But if you're going out to buy new, because somebody said, well, you don't want a used gun, you want to get a brand new gun. Okay, well, then let's just go to rifles over at Classic Firearms. And of all the other weapons that I see there, first of all, I'm trying to keep it minimal cost, or at least, cheap as we can. They do have some Nagants there for $250, and we know that they have 7.62x54R ammo in most places. So you still can, not for $60 anymore, but $250 now is relatively cheap when you look at the price of everything else. However, and that would be an option. That would still be a good choice. I'm not going to poo-poo it or discontinue that idea at all, because that's the cheapest I've seen for a Nagant in quite some time, quite a few days, okay? And that was not cheap, but it's cheaper. Anyway, that's over at ClassicFirearms.com. Classic Firearms. First thing that pops up when you go to rifles. When you go to long guns, then go to rifles. However, in the scroll, and by the way, it is on the first page, this is probably the nicest little package. It was $100 cheaper if you've been listening to me a couple months ago. In fact, it was almost $200 cheaper. At one point, there was a sale where it was about $200, and it's the Remington Firearms 783 wood scope, bolt action, 30-06, 22-inch barrel. I like that. 4+1 in a black stock for $387.44. No, it's not a wow price, but it's not a bad price at this point in time. And to be quite honest, as I've pointed out, here's another caliber where I can go and buy ammo still for it right now. There is 30-06 in pretty much everybody's inventory. Not much, but there's ammunition where other people are sucking vapors. And in fact, to be quite honest, the four most common, I'm not talking about pistols and all the other stuff that you guys are buying as quick as it hits the griddle, okay? Like spit. The four calibers that there are, strangely enough of that they're worthwhile if you have a weapon that will work with them. Number one, as I mentioned many times, 30 caliber carbine. Why? This Korean ammo is phenomenal ammo for what it is. It's boxer prime, non-corrosive, brass case. It is heat annealed. It is in the stripper clips, in bandoliers, and in ammo cans. Okay? Next, 32 ACP. Well, it's not a hot round, but it is a hot round. It's an ice pick round. It'll kill you dead on a doornail. A lot of people have died with 32 ACP. They just don't hear about it because they just show you a gun. They don't tell you what caliber. And the round's been around a long time, so a grandma or grandpa hand-me-down pistol is very common out there. Again, better to have something where you have ammo than you're searching for a few rounds and you don't have much of anything. buy the 32 if you have 32s in stock. Why? Because over there, like at AIM, it's Norma ammunition, highest quality you could ask for, excellent, will fire, first time every time, and put a bullet where it needs to be. Another weird one is the Nagant revolver cartridge. I guess I'd add that as maybe the odd man out number 5. But then there's the Nagant bolt action round, 7.62 by 54R, and 30-06. Those 4, with that 5th caliber being the Nagant, there's good quantity of. And if you have those weapons, I would focus on those right now and build the inventory up because it's cheaper to buy more of those. Now, that sounds weird because .6 has not been cheap. But, well, when 9mm parabellum is $1 a round and I can buy a 30-06 round for 60 to 70 to 80 cents, I'm going to shoot you with the .6. Why not? I'm saving money. Well, I know that's really not how we should look at it because the MBRs are worth a lot more than that, but fact of the matter is that right now, this roller coaster and, eclectic knee-jerk jump back up and down situation with available weapons and available munitions is going to go back and forth constantly, and it's not coming back down. It's not going to get any better. Every day this is going to get worse, okay? So over at Classic Firearms, one of the weapons I would recommend, because it does come, it's fully kitted out, ready to go. It's ready to run. In other words, it's a Remington, good top-of-the-line rifle. Well, okay, we'll put it this way, mid-range rifle. Somebody say, Mark, it's not like a Browning. It's not like a... Yeah, I know those. I've seen all those. But it's a good quality firearm for what it is, easily understood. Like a pump shotgun, one neat thing. Most people have handled a bolt gun of one form or another or have seen enough movie representation that it's not hard to figure out. There is no boo-boo prize on this one, except for being stupid and pointing it at the wrong person and having your finger on the trigger, okay? Yeah, the right person with a finger on the trigger, that's what you're supposed to do, okay? But anyway, this particular rifle, in fact, the only thing I didn't see here when I was looking at the specs on this is it didn't, okay, here we go, I'm sorry. Pre-mounted and bore-sighted 3x9 by 40mm rifle scope. Doesn't tell me whose. I don't really care for the price. I'm really not going to complain, but it might even be a Remington line. But the 783 comes equipped with a pre-mounted and bore-sighted 3-9 variable 40mm scope, rifle scope and 22-inch barrel with a 4-round steel detachable magazine. Buy more mags. Now, with a bolt gun, I'm not really worried about having a 20-round mag, but more ammunition. If you can get a little larger mag, check with CDNN Sports or Gun Parts Corp, because amazingly enough, Gun Parts Corp even has mags for these things. Even though it's a brand new rifle, it's interesting. They've got a collection from somewhere. But for $387.44, it's middle of the road in fact, a little high from what we were seeing 3 months ago. It's middle of the road price, but you still have optics on board. It's in a good caliber, 30-06. And it's a modern, brand-new rifle, ready out of the box to shoot. Now, you're still going to need some ammunition to see how it prints. Go find that .6. If you're serious about this rifle, just like I said about the 9mm a minute ago, go buy it first. It's not going to be hard to find something to pull a trigger on, but if you have something your heart is set on, you need to go buy the ammunition right now. If you're absolutely sure, Mark, no matter what, I don't care what you say, I want to go 308. Well, then you better be buying 308. Don't wait for me to point something out. Obviously, you don't need to. There's plenty of different sources, and the ones I'm mentioning aren't the only sources, but this is just something that jumped out at me because I've looked at all the other pages, and I'm seeing there are a lot of rifles. 243 Win, I've said this a million times. If you already have 243 Winchester in your inventory and you needed another bolt gun, you might just, go to feed that one. Go grab another 243. But this is a good package, and it's in .6. I love the .6 round. I can do more with it than any other. I can load the .6 down with a single lead pellet. Actually, what you do is it's kind of like using the die as a swage. But you can take a double-aught buck round, take a primer, use a standard primer. It doesn't need to be Magnum. You can go with a grain of powder if you want to. 1 grain of any powder won't make any difference. And what you do is you actually insert a double-aught buck BB into the case, and you've got a loaded small game round. You can use it. In fact, you don't want to get shot with it either. It's like basically getting hit with a 36 caliber or a 31 caliber Colt. Now the neat thing is, it'll put that pellet right down range and put it on a target, but it won't obliterate it. The lead pellet's going to do a good job of thudding, and basically when you form it, it's going to turn it into the equivalent to a 30 caliber instead of a 38 caliber wad cutter. That's the smallest projectile you could go with in an .6, but you're talking about bringing the velocities way down as far as again, spent powder, little unknown, primer 1. And it's another thing about most of your heavy rifles, but you can do this with most of them if they have a buck pellet that's readily available. It will form fit in the die when it's pressed in, where normally you'd put a regular bullet in. You just simply insert a pellet and run the die the way you normally would. And we don't want to go full depth when you're seating the bullet. You want to just take it to the face of, or just have a little bit of a round crown exposed. That just makes it a little easier when you want to hand insert it. You're not going to, you can use it in magazine, but personally I like to hand load those. I'm not going to be blazing away with it. So if it's a game getter, I just want to shoot once and I better be good at it. Daddy taught me that a long time ago. Shoot once, don't follow up with a second round, especially in certain conditions. So in this case, it's a little game getter round, and it's an .6, so I can go with any case I got, use my bench accordingly, or my hand mallet system, because I've got one for the .6, and I can field load what I need. Anyway, just an idea. Remington 783 with scope, 30-06, 22-inch barrel with a 3 to 9 power scope on the roof, everything hooked up, already laser bore sighted, and they're $387.44. There are a few cheaper rifles, but they don't have optics. And not many, really. In fact, there's nothing under the $300 mark for the most part. There are some single-shot weapons, mostly shotguns, mostly 410. And again, in used guns, oh hell, you might find something really cool out there. I don't know. I would point out also, and this is something that does not surprise me, in ammunition the last couple of days, the 8mm got sucked up like a vacuum. Anybody notice that? Go look at UN Ammo. Go look at, in fact, I was going to check, see, Centerfire has had a source down the road for this stuff, and they might have restocked in the last 2 days. But Centerfire Systems had Czech and some of the Ethiopian. The Ethiopian went first, but if they did run out, I will say this, that they have restocked very quickly. And I know why, because usually it's because with the Centerfire, if they can drive down the road with a pickup truck and go get it, they will. And that's what they do. So you'll have to go through the inventory and see what they have in the way of surplus, if there's any left. But I think, as I've said, remember, guys, people are looking for inexpensive solutions, and if they already have a pile of Mausers and the only ammo they can see for under 40 cents a round is like 8mm corrosive, I told you, everybody will buy it. And it's a smart move because we need volume. So congratulations, whoever did that. You guys are on the ball, and everybody else, well, you're sucking vapors again. That just happens. It's just whoever gets there on the race first and has the fastest credit card car, right? Vroom, vroom. Anyway, last but not least is over at Centerfire. I'm going to mention this again. Let's see if any are left, because I know they've been going pretty quick. They had the Model 1893 Mausers for about $130, $140, depending upon condition. And I'm looking to see... Ooh. Wait a minute. No, 22 long rifle. I was going to say, somebody just slapped me in the microphone here, but it's 22 for $260 with a scope, which is not a bad price. And 22 is available, yes. John, thank you for pointing that out. 22 is available, but if you have 22s, I'd be buying the hell out of the ammo first just to make sure you got it if you don't have very much, because needless to say, what's out there is out there. So, again, I don't see, it's not jumping off right away. I'll probably, after I say that, we'll dig it out of the inventory, but they have had those Model 93s, if they still have them. And I'm going to go one more place. I'm doing this on the air because I looked for it before the program and I didn't find it then either. Okay. Let's see, 1893 Mauser. See if it pops up that way real quick. And no result, but that doesn't mean I'm using the right... Oh, no, it is still there, $130. They still have them in the inventory. Antique, Turkish, 8mm Ottoman Mauser, 1893, complete. No FFL required on this. And everybody that's reported them, including our guys here who bought some, they have been in good condition. They have not been even as... They don't look as bad as the picture they're showing. So I think they're showing the picture to make you understand, hey, they could look like this. So far, none of them have. So... just a heads up, it is available at Centerfire. It's the Antique Turkish 8mm Ottoman Mauser, 1893, complete, barreled action, no furniture, $130. Now, let me point something out about these anything that you've got an 8 or 7mm. If you have funky/damaged 30-06 or 270 brass, guys, if it's got a shoulder split or if it's got a throat split, guess what? You can take that and run that through an 8mm die with a resizing lube and make that into an 8mm case and breathe life into it. You could also convert it into a 308 round, which most of you won't bother doing because you can find 308 ammo. However, remember, it was hard to get Boxer primed reloadable 8mm. And for that matter, for the longest time, it was difficult to get any good quantity of 7.62x51 NATO in Boxer primed. So good reloaders knew how to resize defunct brass that was damaged so that we could breathe a little more life into it for a little bit longer. And that's how you do it. So just heads up, the 8mm is by no means gone per se. The big thing is you want then dies and you want to find a bullet mold. Why? Well, because I'd be going lead. I wouldn't necessarily go out and buy more bullets, although there are plenty of 7.92 Mauser/8mm Mauser bullets, projectiles, 200 grain or lighter, available right now. You can go to Spear and Hornady. There is stuff out there. But I would get a die from one of the same companies in 8mm and be ready to cast any punk and chunk metal that's soft to make a bullet for that Mauser, because it wouldn't be hard to do. In fact, the modern wheel weights, this real heads up. I know it's Communications Tuesday, we're talking about nothing but weapons, but we're getting closer to the war, so it's, we're in it. We're in the early stages right now. Remember that bullet lead, it's not really lead anymore, it's actually punk and junk metal. It is frangible, it melts, or I should say, let's put it this way. It's malleable and low temp enough as to terms of the alloy that it melts. But when you recast it, here's why you're not supposed to like it, because it's frangible. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, actually, frangible bullets in the Bakelite type or Bakeloi, or what they call it, there's Niloy and a couple others. They were made during World War II, and they were used for aircraft training, okay? They have all the performance necessary to get the bullet to where it goes, but when they hit, they just pulverize. Sounds bad. What do I want that for? Oh, I want that because if I have that metal that you use for the wheel weights and I hit somebody with it, it fractures like safety glass in chunks about the same size and then just tears the hell out of whatever it hits. However, if anybody looks at it, it's a cast training round. So they can't tell you, oh, you were building an anti-personnel. No, I was building these for training and, they're ball round. In fact, technically, they're a solid ball round when you do them in that kind of metal. So what's bizarre is they technically kind of conform to the Geneva Convention from one direction, and of course everybody immediately says, I ain't never heard of that. I ain't never heard of it, Red Dawn. Okay.
Mark, aren't all projectiles anti-personnel rounds? That's why I've got mine. Right. Well, yeah, they are they're very, very much so. But here again, the way any kind of metals like this, the reason we don't shoot them is because of performance at the other end. But we're not worried about that. We're worried about performance in general. We just want to get a bullet downrange. So remember, there's a lot of materials that you can use. There is no Geneva Convention in our inventory. The other side's going to use every kind of wicked device and instrument you can imagine to try and fold, spindle, and mutilate us. My attitude is back at you in spades. So everybody, just heads up. Don't get rid of those new wheel weights. Just remember what it's going to take to melt them. And remember that when you cast them, what you're going to get in the deal, the bullet will be, perform well enough. And it will tuck into those lands and grooves on those old Mausers, just fine. But when it hits, it's going to be like somebody walked up and put like a little 410 or a 20 gauge up next to the person's torso and, pulled the trigger, which is what you want, right? That's what I want. I want hellacious, horrible injuries on the part of my enemy. I want them to wish to God they never came out to think they were going to steal the liberty of America, that they were going to attack the Bill of Rights and try to burn the country down. I want to make it horrific for them. And I'll tell you flat out why, because they plan on doing the same thing to us. In fact, they've got all kinds of even more wicked things that they think they're going to do, because they've read all the commie books from the past in China and Russia. And you're starting to hear them flap their yap about how they hate Christianity and hate Christians. So, okay, cool. Well, I understand exactly where they're going with that. And they got enough Fruit Loop and hairball nutcases that they can get them to do all kinds of evil once they get them, start pounding on the ground, guys. So, back at them in spades.
And again, we didn't pick up our house and go down the road and start assaulting their governmental offices. They're coming after us.
Yep, and they're talking more and more about how, well, here's the thing. Thank you real quick on that one. Okay, guys, everybody notice that Trump is going to start calling everybody a terrorist. Everybody pay attention to this, because you see everybody's going, yeah, go after those guys. You know what? The kosher mafia that runs Trump plans on disarming you. Trump plans on coming after the guns. Nobody likes me saying that one. Trump is planning, Trump's handlers, the people who really run Trump, are coming after the guns. And how they're going to do it, you can hear it in their vocabulary right now. Because you will not be approved. You are not the special chosen puppy. That's the Soviet or the communist or the foreigner. But not you. You will all be, well, yeah, they're going. You want to restrict all the guys. All right. Well, that means all of you. No, it was those Antifa guys. No, not at all. They're coming after everything, and it will be Trump's ATF, Trump's FBI, which, by the way, they're telling you isn't his FBI anyway. So they're all wicked bastards planning on doing this. Every time we do mention it, he goes, well, FBI doesn't work for Trump. Well, then who do they work for? How about the ATF? Who does the ATF work for? Well, they go against what he said. Well, then who do they work for? Donald Trump is in charge. Guys, this is not 4 years ago, 3 years ago. Everybody keeps making excuses. This sucker's been in play for 4 years. And you're acting like, well, I can keep making excuses. But he's in charge. In fact, he wants to be in charge for 4 more years. We've already gone through 4 and haven't got jack squat from this character. Well, except pissed on. No, you don't understand. I understand completely, because obviously if he is in charge, he didn't know how to assert himself. Here's how you get it done. Hey, Mr. Clinton, I was going to say Clinton almost, but it might as well be, there's no difference. Hey, Mr. Trump, how about you stop hiring all these swamp people that you keep hiring? How about we not hire the swamp people, which we were told we were going to get rid of the swamp? Oh, but and then he gets fooled. The reason they're there is because they fooled him. How? All these characters are on a list. The swamp people are easy to find. They've been employed by the government before, recently. Does everybody understand? Recently, we're not talking like, well, that was 20, 30, 40. He's got some of those too. Okay, but a whole bunch of them that are working under Mr. Trump that he brought into this administration are all the pieces of trash that were doing this to you with Bummer or Bush before, and or Clinton before. Just a little heads up, it's 4 years. This is Trump's FBI, Trump's ATF, Trump's Justice Department, and they are working for foreigners, and they have a plan. Daddy didn't train no fool. There ain't nobody over there that's wearing a black uniform that is your friend. There is nobody wearing a black outfit. And there's the best way to describe it. Not the Antifa bunch or the government black uniform bunch. They're both the same punks run by the same punks in management. There is no difference between any of them. They are all Soviets. They just want Trotskyism instead of Stalinism. They want Leninism instead of Trotskyism. Wait a minute, let's do it just a two-way split. Trotsky and Lenin versus Stalin. If we just had Leninism, yeah, whatever. So, again, organize, arm, equip, and train as militia. Vote magazines. You really want to vote? The vote's dead. The vote is finished. It's dead. I got another call. I didn't even answer. I didn't recognize the number this time, but they're using a local number, as they always do for these call-in scams, trying to get me, because it's so important, that I do an absentee ballot. Well, my question was which one? Since I have 7 different forms that showed up here, I didn't get some of the middle batch, and I don't know why. The earlier batch of stuff that came in, we got like multiples. So which one am I supposed to turn in? All of them. So then the latest one, guys, I got to reinforce this from yesterday. The latest one came from the Republicans, not from the Democrats. And it was a canned form for absentee ballot people. Now, I'm not going anywhere. I haven't left the state. Haven't left the county. Looks like I'm still in the same address I've been for decades. So why would I need an absentee ballot? For that matter, since they're throwing those out like popcorn, how can I trust any aspect of the voting process, because we already know how many shills, even if I did send it in, what difference would it make? The mailman will throw it out, right?
Hey, Mark.
Think about that. Go ahead, caller, jump in there.
It's Phyllis from Ohio. Speaking of these absentee ballots and everything, there was a video. It was done by, I think, Project Veritas. I think that's who it did. I don't remember. I didn't pay attention to the video's name, but it was about Omar and how she got elected to Congress. And this is how they did it. They had all these Somalians and all these people come in. They came into Minnesota. They came into Milwaukee. Yeah, Milwaukee, I guess that's where she's from. But anyway, they came in. They took up residence for like 30 days or something. They went and they applied for a ballot, absentee ballot. And they said, well, you don't have, you need a driver's license, whatever. No, we don't have those. We just moved here. But these people here can vouch for us. And so they got all these people. They were paying people to get these absentee ballots. They were filling them out, forging people's signatures, and having all these people vote for her. And she wasn't the only one. There were like 2 or 3 other ones. So this is just a scam. That's what's going to go on not only in Minnesota, but it was Minneapolis, Minnesota. But anyway, it's gonna happen all over the United States. So that's why it's going to be tied up. That's why things are going to be so bad, because you're going to have all these mail-in ballots, all these absentee ballots that are going to be mailed in. Some of them are going to be lost. Some of them are going to be thrown away. It's just not going to be an election at all, really, basically. It's just like a third world country, there's nothing different about it.
Right, it's where they came from. This is what they were doing.
Yeah.
That's why, again, with the Somalis, that's why, again, what kind of a country is it? It doesn't have any election per se, and if it does, the level of corruption is so great that, well, in order for them to try and get some semblance of any count, they have to threaten death. They do. That's what it comes down. And of course, well, if you do that, then the clans get, everybody goes back into, let's just say, feud mode. So here we are with the same turds, same filth excrement over here. And these characters, the characters have brought them in. How did they get here? The Israelis, the Jewish mob brought them in. Mm-hmm. Who's in charge of immigration? Why were they brought in here? They were brought in here to create conflict. And then they were specifically dropped into areas as part of the social conflict engineering plan. That's why they're in Maine. Same colony. They've got a colony in Maine. And every place where they drop their sorry ass, these people are all the same kind of turds. So there's no
remember that.
There never will
remember
be.
That woman, the Jewish woman in Europe, who was saying, yes, we're proud to do this, and people are going to be upset with us Jewish people because we're bringing all the immigrants in, but Europe is going to have to just deal with it.
Right, but they're going to bring it down and it's okay, which of course it's like, if that's the case, hold still. Let me get some gasoline. You can try and light the match, but guess who's going to be doused with gas?
Hey, Mark.
Go ahead.
Here's something that's just really off the wall and just totally off the subject of anything. But I don't know if you've ever heard of I can't even say his name now. He's the guy that did the theorem. But anyway, the fellow, he was from Greece, and he actually, the Pythagorean theory and stuff. But he also did other things with music as well. And what he found out was that if you play one particular tune, or note rather, he had a lout or a lute.
Yes.
And he would go in, and he would, somebody may be angry, and they might be fighting and everything. He would go in, and he'd sit there, and he'd play one note, one frequency on his lute. And after a while, everybody would calm down. So my thought was, and this is really stupid, doesn't make sense, but anyway, what would happen when these people are rioting or when these people are doing all these things if people that live nearby in apartments and stuff would open their windows and play a particular frequency?
Or at least play a certain note on a certain note. Maybe the frequency would be harder, but a certain note.
Right.
Well, okay, think about this. Do a little experiment. Best, most popular songs. You're on the right track on all. This is part of social engineering. Go look at your record collection and go through each song, or you can go to YouTube. You can actually do it this way. Go through each song, set it up, get rid of the ad. You'll have to suffer with the ads you didn't want to see. That's the only reason I know Biden is an idiot and an nincompoop, because if I want to go watch anything on YouTube, it's going to have a Biden ad in it, right? So I know beyond a shadow of a doubt Biden is an absolute worthless idiot / incompetent, but that's a sidebar. Anyway, get past all of that and set the song up and play the first few bars. But at least, again, pay attention to the lead note and then go to the end of the song and play the closing notes. Now, remember that traditionally, and we've all grown up with the present engineering policy and the way it is, and really it's engineered for radio guys. You don't. Part of it is also the way psychologically you respond to it. But you have the end cap fade. You have a kickoff, sometimes with a lower fade, and then it goes to a kickoff note. We played a song last night, probably the best example. You have Highway to Hell. You listen to the long version, you start out with a low basso and a monotone. But then, when they want to get into the actual theme, you have a kickoff note. Now, I want you to do something, guys. Pay attention. If you're a musician, you already know this. Go listen and pay attention to what the basso or monotone note is, and then pay attention to the kickoff, which is the identifier, and then go listen to the fade-out note. Here's what's fun, is I do this all the time with music mixes. I try to actually do it a lot. I've got a pile of CDs, like I just said last night. One of the things I did the other night was a handful of music mixes. If you pay attention, you'll notice that the best songs, the most popular songs, all begin with, have the kickoff note, and a closing note that are identical. Elvis Presley to the Beatles to Fleetwood Mac, Pink Floyd, Charlie Daniels. I don't care. Go right through all of them. Here's what's really fun. If you go through to all, and even different eras of the modern engineered era of music, this is, you will find something that you can take each one of those songs and put them and fade them tail in, and they link so naturally that if you're looking at an algorithm like a sine line, that they blend perfectly one into the other as in a sine wave form. What they say when they begin, what they do for the initiator, for the actual core of the music, theme, which will be the repetitive theme in the chorus, and then the closing fade. My favorite is with the Cars, because no matter what, the Cars jumps all over the place, and they do non-repetitive music. But if you pay attention when you get to the end, when they go to their fades, it's really obvious when you listen to their albums. But if you break their albums up, you can do it with other albums and other music and other artists. And it doesn't make any difference what era over the last 50 years or so. The 50s, little tinnier in some ways, but the basic note patterns were already understood. And remember that in the late 40s and 50s, they already understood subliminal projection. And remember, they passed laws against that in the 50s. Which, by the way, if you recall, guys, in the 90s, they rescinded all of the subliminal projection laws.
Because they use it in ads all the time.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, well, and even then, they've always done border. In other words, this is still my favorite because they did it, and they did it right in your face. How many people have watched the movie? Now there's a new remake. There's yet another remake called Brave New World. Okay? Aldous, remember Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, right? Here's something that's kind of cool. There's a version that was done with Leonard Nimoy, right? Now, Leonard Nimoy plays the main character who is like the big kahuna of the institutionalized dope-slinging government. He talks. In several instances, he's on a stage and they have the classic big screen, like you see Gates and everybody do behind them. Here's something that's fun, and I haven't even bothered to look see if YouTube has done anything about it. If you go and watch any of the long excerpts from that program, whenever the screen flashes behind Nimoy, the whole screen is filled with Star of Davids from one side to the other and from top to bottom for a microsecond. And then it goes to the fanfare image and then the actual image of the character. And if you slow it down and freeze it frame by frame, you catch it. Now understand, it is so long in hold that you can physically see it. And I've always wondered how many people even notice that because of how brain dead people are when they kind of get into, watch mode. But because of the subliminal projection laws, it's so close to violating the law that it's there, but it's just on the tidal wave edge. But it's repeated over and over again. So just a little heads up, people. Oig, Vault, because the Jewish mob, if they get you doped up with like Prozac, oh, wait a minute, what was the name of the drug in Brave New World? It's called Soma. Guys, the drug companies sell a drug right now, and what is its name? Soma. And what does it do? Well, read the book, and then take a look at the drug, and you tell me.
But anyway, one of the other things, though, that's really interesting is that they changed. They tried to do it for years, and finally, I'm not sure if it was in the 40s or 50s or when they did it for sure, finally. But they tried to change everything from being tuned at 432, which apparently was it's apparently close to the Earth frequency, and to go to 440. And 440 apparently has more dissonance in it, or that's what I understand. Maybe I'm wrong, but anyway, than actually 432. So 432 is a lot better, a lot more compatible, a lot more, it's not agitating, I guess you could say.
Right.
So when you play songs in that particular frequency, and everything is tuned to that, it makes a big difference.
So, well, here's something to think about. Two different areas where you can kind of show people how that works. Everybody thinks it's really cool, the Far Eastern monks, because what do they do? What do the monks do? What do they do when they sit cross-legged? What do they do in the monastery?
They Om.
Shai Hulud. Oh, wait a minute, that was Dune.
Well, too, they have sometimes some monasteries have different, some monasteries have different. They don't just They make other sounds.
Oh yeah, no, there's harmony. Yeah, there's frequency harmony. Yeah.
Somewhere.
Well, let's not forget, the reason I brought that up is now let's go to the other end, because they always tell you it's Far Eastern mysticism, and they're like nothing else, and you have to go chant to them. Anybody ever listen to the Gregorian chants?
Oh, yeah, they're close to it, yeah.
Oh, they're the other half of the world, and they were developed in Europe, and they were, of course, all through the Mediterranean, but, I mean, the whole idea is without instruments, and yet also, what were they doing? Frequency harmonization.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And remember, it's also working at, if you listen to all the bass work, now, of course, there's all kinds of stylized work done in the Gregorian style, because that's in vogue for the moment, so you can find a ton of this stuff on YouTube right now, and any place where there's music. But it's the same idea, exactly what you're talking about. They're literally, if you think what they're testing, you can create a conflicting or non-harmonious musical result, and there are many examples of that. Part of that is with using the percussion tied in and actually going with flats or sharps as opposed to what you hear, like I said, the two different variations on the theme, the monastery chants of the Far Eastern Tibetan monks, or the chanting of, and of course the Gregorian chants of a monk chorus or a monk troupe in the process of what they've learned. So you're absolutely right. I mean, all sound is there. I've said this for years. It's not something that's off. It's just the reverse. They're terrified. Battle music, battle hymns. Okay, guys, you are terrified. You're all scared. How about you find your roots? Music is part of that. Okay, in fact, battle chants. There's other stuff that's been done, but music in and of itself, or see, there's two aspects to this. Number one is the harmony of frequency, but the other half of this is also copacetic or copacetic interaction with an end result. Because it is a bonding process. What do the monks do? The monk doesn't just sit there by himself. The idea is to bring everybody to prayer in the same way. You see a variation on this in Allah Akbar, Alayhi Kalima, Malik Malika Mukarrahma. Okay, well, what is everybody doing? You get to hear the call to prayer, and everyone is they always do it. It's so beautiful, and everyone is so loving. Well, and then everybody, of course, mutually integrates into the process. There's a lot more to this. Now, it creates a oneness, which is something that the other side does not want, which is why I've said before, you've got some really crappy music out there right now. It is for that purpose.
Yeah, it's dissonant. A lot of it is dissonant.
Yeah.
So it's not really pleasant to listen to. Some of it is actually just garbage. It doesn't even, it just repetitive over and over and over and over and over, the same words over and over and over again. And it's kind of, they try to be upbeat. They try to make it upbeat, especially when you're in a store, and they'll play this garbage music, and they'll boom, boom, boom.
And then there's always the wicked, some people really hate elevator music.
Exactly. Yeah, the wicked.
I like the I'm into science fiction, people. Sorry, you just know that I watch stuff to see what they've done and how they pervert stuff. But if you watch Stargate Universe, the very last season episodes, they're somewhere in the halfway across the universe, literally, and there's a rebuilt society that they made by accident, and they get into an elevator, and it goes, we're half the universe away from Earth, and they still have elevator music, and everybody's kind of listening to it. And they're kind of like, hey.
It would be an interesting experiment because I was thinking about this. I don't know why I think about some of these things, but I do. But it would be an interesting experiment, especially in Louisville, Kentucky, where they're going around, and apparently they're standing there and they're pointing guns at people, and all of a sudden they start playing this. Maybe it's 174 hertz. So that's the particular notes. The particular frequency that's being played. It's being played in all the cars as they go by these people. It'll be interesting to see if that really made a difference. And if all of a sudden, it's kind of ridiculous, it probably would never happen in a million years. I'm probably just fantasizing. But if all of a sudden they just either dropped their guns or they kind of like shook their heads because all of a sudden they're not a Manchurian anymore. Well, they've come out of that trance.
One thing that you've got the right idea about, okay, I've argued this for years. I can take you to Ann Arbor, Michigan and show you where there are antenna arrays on the side of buildings people completely ignore. And I've had to ask people, okay, let me ask you something. This is a skyscraper. Look on the side of the building. See those arrays, these individual, bars, and what they are basically antenna extensions. Well, if you look, you'll see they're across the whole of the building. What are they doing? It's an array. They've made the whole building an array. Another thing that people don't pay attention to, go through any of your downtown or metropolitan areas and pick out the spook and kook buildings. How can you do that? Well, I can show you in every one, you'll have massive quantities of different antennas and fixtures to include the microwave family, and it'll be a porcupine. And most people just don't, like I said, people are typically unobservant. most all of your metropolitan areas have pods like this, which is how we hunt the bad guys. I mentioned this also on the air. Guys, your enemy is very much into communications, alternate communications, and manipulative communication, which is what you're talking about, Phyllis. And I personally believe that they've been doing this on the college campuses. They've done this first because those are their experimental test beds where they have total control over the population. They can play with them in a dozen different ways. Remember, traditionally, one of the best examples of why college campuses were especially useful, it used to be mandatory that the freshmen, the student population, actually had to live on campus in the dorms, with the population that was being affected and could be monitored more efficiently. They were going to classes, their food was regimented, the whole 9 yards. Now, to a degree, that's still in place, but there's been a liberalization in, for instance, living in habitat. So, but it's still within close proximity, because if somebody doesn't live on campus in the college, housing, they live around in the area, and since typically all of these hyper monster institutions, University of Michigan owns most of Ann Arbor, Purdue University, Harvard, all these are now basically social engineering pods. They're not just cities. In fact, they're very little do they have to do with the traditional intention of the city. They have become isolated, phonetically enhanced research centers for manipulation, for manipulative control. And there's little micro versions of whatever they want to do inside each of those cities, too, in the process. And it varies depending on where you are. But, like California is, expanded and expanded. And look at the vomitous filth they have there now. Well, to the point where everybody's now fleeing from it so they can take their vomitous filth to all the rest of the states and puke in those places and do exactly where they're going, where they came from, like what they came from. And I think this is one of the most important aspects. It has to do with testing, a combination of, let's say, voluntary input. What I mean by that is I don't have to broadcast it at you. I'll let you tune it in, like we're talking about with music. I'll create a fad mindset, which a fad inventory, which is promoted from the institutions and the colleges with association, combined with propaganda from the media outlets themselves, and there's only a limited number, so it's not hard to do that, and they've been doing that for years, back when we had just 3 or 4 quote-unquote television networks. Now it's really not any different. Everybody admits the same damn people own all of these communications pods, including the communications through the internet. So you're seeing the biggest thing that they're now afraid of or concerned with is what? Social media construction, because 2 things are happening with social media construction: intercommunication, which they don't want, where it's free and independent, rather than fadded, in other words, run with the fad. And the other thing that's bollocksing it up is we also can incorporate, and in fact have discovered, even if we don't know everything we're talking about, a lot of people pick and choose the music that is inspirational, tied in with the audio and the visual, and it gravitates towards a particular area of operation, a certain style and technique. And they don't want that. They need to be able to agitate, hit somebody with an electric cattle prod, and then when they've used you enough, hit a switch and pull the electric cattle prod out, and you're back to being a cow. The best example is Vietnam. I've said this for years. Well, Vietnam, when it ended, was like somebody hit a light switch. Remember how everybody went into brain fart?
Yeah.
That's exactly, guys. Everybody forgets this. All the garbage they stirred the pot on, Nixon, the Vietnam War, they created the same turmoil that we have right now, but they figure everybody will forget. We have seen all of this before that we are seeing right now, except now it's on steroids by comparison. However, even as I say that, I'm going to point out, depending upon your life's experience, some of you saw everything that we're seeing right now, and you need to speak up about it. Because they're counting on the idea that everybody goes into a brain fog with regard to their own history. Anyway, Phyllis, if you want to, stick around, stay where you are. Give you a chance. We're going to take off, but close with me. God bless the Republic.
Death to the New World Order.
We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire's on the run.
And we are on the march day and night, and take care of your rifle.
It burns, but it looks like a tic-tac-toe board because I turned the rifle 90 degrees. Anyway, for everybody out there, we're starting late, but that's because we got an interesting subject. Hopefully I got your brain juices flowing. That's what we do here on Liberty Tree Radio. We are forcing you to think. Remember, Om Shai Hulud. We'll be back right here. Second hour coming up. It is Communications Tuesday on Liberty Tree Radio.
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's hunting country. Let us help you find the right shotgun or rifle for you. Or if you're looking for a pistol or concealed carry, we have a nice selection of compact and subcompact pistols for that too. Check out our website at www.libertiesguardian.com. That website again is www.libertiesguardian.com. Go to the website and check out our selection today.
Servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. Your daughters visit doctors, so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores, and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Your children to live in fear, be a slave. O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. Pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second hour of the afternoon Intelligence Report. I'm Mark Kornke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, Southwest, East, Northeast, and Central. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to us on Libertytreeradio.4mg.com, Liberty Tree Radio on YouTube, live stream at Liberty Tree Radio channel, and we are on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and UltraNet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in lower 49, including the great state of Jefferson, along with the CONUS, the outlying two states, territories, and the clock, 6:13 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Running a little late. We went over. It's our network the last hour, and it is Communications Tuesday. It is the 29th of September. It is the 12th year of open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist occupation of America with a K, 2020, Old Earth calendar, 2020, Battle for the Republic, the Dance of Swords, the adventure begins. Congratulations, hacking and chopping rules, and in the first 72 hours, things are going to go dark real fast for everybody in every direction. So remember, you're hunting them harder than they think they are hunting you. When they come out to hunt all of us, don't you think that we've already decided where they're to keep them where they come to so that they don't go back? Let nothing but a rumor of their destruction return to where they came from. Not even one to go back and tell everyone, no. You don't want them to have any idea of how to correct the mistake made. You want them to think that maybe they should just repeat the process. The first 3 days or so, they will. They will. And after a while, not so much. Anyway, ne copula nobiscum. It is Communications Tuesday. We've been talking about technologies, guys. Pay attention to your environment. Go through the areas. Louisville, downtown, around the Jewish hospital, or actually towards the river. It's not really so much, it is downtown. But towards the river, pay attention to that area. I've pointed this out to many people because we've traveled that route. We try to avoid it like the plague. Now, I haven't gone that way in quite some time. Any way but through Louisville. That is a death stretch, seriously. If they keep it up, maybe they'll drive more people away and it would be less dangerous than it already is. But right there where you come down the big, long hill from the south headed to the river, it makes like a 90-degree turn. Guys, I've seen them roll chunks of cars off from accidents and collisions there when we've been waiting, or we just catch traffic and we don't get blocked up behind it. The last one I'll never forget, they had 3 guys holding the front quarter of a car. They were rolling back up off the exit right next to the Jewish hospital, and it's called the Jewish Hospital. I'm not making that name up. That's, if you know Louisville, you'll know where I'm talking about. And they're rolling the front end of the chunk of the car with 3 people holding the other parts of the suspension in the front quarter section and rolling it back up to the wrecker because the rest of the pieces are stretched across that highway and over into the southbound. And then there are the bridges. So you want to stay away from there if you can anyway. If you're stuck there, well, darn. But there are ways to get around. However, if you go through there, pay attention to the buildings. The nice thing about it is an elevated highway. And you can kind of look across and see things on roofs that you probably wouldn't notice if they were above you by many more stories. And you're going to be fascinated by how many different antenna arrays you go, what the hell is that? And then you look over across the way to the west there and you go, and what in the hell are those? And it's like, oh, wait a minute, I've seen those before. Let me break up my, wait a minute, there's a couple of manuals, actually, I need to reproduce the one. Came from U6. It's for us intelligence analysts, but anybody else could be using it in communications. But it's about 2.5 inches thick, and every second page it covers what if you see it, what is it? And it's a reverse engineering idea for tracking and hunting communications, which is what I was taught to do. If you can't find them any other way, pay attention to the hardware. But then once you know what the hardware does, you know what the frequencies are to look for, you know what the technology does and what its intent is. Is it, ground surveillance radar, air defense radar, observation communications technology, countermeasures technology? Could be anything, okay? Well, in the downtown metropolitan areas, it's pointed at the population. And what we talked about in the first hour is exactly what they're doing all over the country. And if the more intense the area population-wise, the more fiddle-farting like this is going on. And if you're there, you're in the wrong place. And there are things you can do to create non-harmonic bubbles. They're actually, when I mentioned countermeasures with a lot of electronics is simply knowing what the null frequencies are that can be used to neutralize. Now, for anybody who doesn't understand that, let me point out something that hasn't been talked about for a while again. You notice how this technology, things rise up and then they make them disappear? How many remember sound-canceling technology for helicopter rotors? Anybody? What happened to talking about that? Isn't that really cool? It was like you hit a switch and all of a sudden you can't really hear the chopper. How does that work? What is that?
I remember talking about it, Mark.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot.
Yeah, when they were hovering over the property next door. My wife's like, why is it so windy? And she goes outside, there's a freaking helicopter. It's not making any noise, but the wind is blowing.
Yeah. So how is that? What's going on there? It's not hard to actually use the technology, but first you have to know about it. And if we don't bring a conversation up and you don't think about it, you aren't going to have it in your brain pan to pull from your idea division. In other words, when you're looking at something, it's outside of what you could possibly believe would be normal. I mean, things make noise. Ergo, it's not a movie. I'm in real life. Go ahead. I heard another voice. Caller, jump in there.
Yeah. I remember there was a TV show about it. I think it was a police helicopter that would kind of like spy.
Blue Thunder. Remember? Blue Thunder was one, and then they also did it on Noid Wolf. I'm sorry, Airwolf. Right?
Right.
Yeah. And again, they brought it up, but it's out of your mind now. You're not supposed to think about that. That way, when they use the technology, they realize that if you don't reinforce it, you don't talk about it, nobody's going to think about it. Ergo, it's not in your inventory of things to correct, when you make mistakes. In other words, you should be using optical solutions to observe and also, in other words, audiovisual solutions. You were listening, and you should also be looking. And not just looking straight out and across. You should be looking across the arc of activity in your area of operation. And this means ground surveillance personnel, in addition to other technologies in illumination to identify threats. See, one of the things that I really don't like is that the little bastards over out west there in Portland start using the lasers. We don't want everybody to think about that right away, but I knew that everybody is talking to a degree about them, and a lot of the younger people are playing with a lot of electronics, which is cool. But remember that works also for detection at night, even though it is a black helicopter, and in fact has subdued or stealth technology. You're looking for interference. You don't need to even have a real hard, strike on a target. I've demonstrated how to use that for like a reverse, using laser for ground surveillance. People said, well, they've got these, light intensity suits. They started that crap with everybody, guys back in the 90s. And they're invisible. It's like, really? Okay, let me ask you something. Have you ever seen a leveling laser? Tex-Mex, DAR. Have you seen leveling lasers, right? For using in a room? Guys?
I've used them.
Yeah, what do you do if you put one of those, I've told you about, I haven't talked about this enough in a while, and we need to again. It's like a laser mine, but it doesn't hurt anything. What would happen if you take several of these leveling laser, the cheap ones especially, they're not expensive. I've got 4 or 5 of them now. I used to have none, but everybody keeps tossing them out. And they're Harbor Freight, but there's also several that are made by many of the tool companies. And you plop it in the middle of a field at about the 4-foot mark or the 3-foot mark, and then you wait. And then, you suspect there's some noise, something that wasn't right. You hit the switch, and the leveling laser goes off. What happens when that hits anything, even if it refracts or deflects light to a degree? In other words, works like an invisibility suit. What do you think that's going to show up as? It's going to look like a log. It's going to look like a piece of, even look at it this way, if nothing else, think of it like a smoky room with an area where you have an eddy. You hit it with a laser. Have you ever seen that, guys? You've seen it at rock concerts. Okay, you hit something, what does it do? Creates one hell of an obstruction. Even if it can deflect light, it creates an obstruction, which is what you shoot at. See how that works? You don't have to. There's all kinds of tricks that work. In fact, you can use it at night, even if you wanted to use it just as like a ground illumination technology. Everybody on my mark. Ready guns? Ready guns. Everybody have their quadrant. In other words, you tell everybody in advance, what are your fields of fire and control? You hit the laser level light, boom, or 2 or 3 of them, and all of a sudden, anything it comes in contact with at the 3-foot mark, you shoot. Wow. You know what? There wasn't anything out there when you set them up. So anything that the laser hits is a target. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about? This is a pan. It's like a pan of laser light. All it is basically a little laser, actually, or more than one. It can be 3, 4, 5, 10, and they're on a little pivot, and it spins on a motor. Well, whatever that laser makes contact with, I don't care if you're wearing black, red, purple, green, even if it was absorbent, what's it going to do? It is going to interrupt the passage of the light, which means that you have a center point target. Remember, wherever something starts, when you do flares behind, I've said this a million times, you can either have lighting. Okay, let's say that I have my 40 acres to the south here. I use my neighbor's lighting. It works the same way. Let them pay the bill. If you pay attention when you see motion, guys, you'll see that there's activity. You've seen this. It looks like, man, I see stuff moving around, but I can't see who it is. Well, it's a kill zone. Let's say it's a designated kill zone. You're in a free fire zone right now around your property. You know that nobody else is friendly that's around there that's moving. And all of a sudden you hit the lights, the ground lighting, and you have things moving. What do you aim for? You don't aim for the shadow up above. You use the shadow as an arrow pointer to the location of the target. At the base of the shadow is where you fire.
And the laser would make a 3D effect on anything moving.
Oh, yes. Not only does it give you the shadowing effect, but it paints up and flashes the target. And remember, it's going to flare around a bit because you have no real flat surface. You're kind of squiggly. And you may even have equipment that you're wearing that's going to, create a flare, which means that you get the shadowing effect at the point of interruption, plus you get all the flashing effect that you want desirable for confirmation of, size and shape. But here's the basic rule. Let's say that I had this 40 acres out here, and I take those leveling lasers and use them accordingly. Number one, we're not going to be in an open field. Now, I'm going to point out, not much of your enemy is going to be willing to drag themselves across that distance. And if they do, and you have a suspicion, drop some, HE on something. Every once in a while, have the grenadier dump something if you really, you hit the laser and you get a kind of a mild paint that then disappears. Well, there's somewhere over there. How about you drop a 40 on that? Boom. Oh, yeah, there's one over. Oh, there's 2 over there. Oh, I'll bet you there's more. See how this works? This is all off-the-shelf tools, people. These are tools. This isn't even weapons. These are tools, but they allow you to see the enemy. When you have a flare, you drop a flare behind the target. You don't drop it overhead necessarily. Take that parachute flare, angle it out low degree, drop it out, and let it fall down and behind the target and burn on the ground.
Or the night vision drone.
Yes, it back silhouettes everything. Oh, yes, plus whatever you're doing. Remember, once you got that kind of illumination, it's like broad daylight with anything from above or any of your ground camera technology. It's not that we don't know how to use the technology. It's just that we don't necessarily use all high-tech. We can use a whole lot of cheaper low-tech to get the job done. Here's the other thing about this is they're going to take the night with night vision. But what if there isn't any darkness? All the night vision becomes is an encumbrance for your enemy, while on the other hand, it's going to stay pretty much broad daylight across the board. They've just lost any enhancement they've had. Now, the important thing here is, again, you do it to varying degrees. We don't light it up so that it becomes an advantage for the enemy. We light up the kill zones. We light up the designated kill zones where we have controlled fires over an area. And that means we have to constantly be thinking. Master the battlefield. Know your areas of control. Know your points of impact. Know where all your friendlies are. Remember, there is no such thing as friendly fire. This is another reason that when you use laser or you use illumination technology, you give everybody, man, this is where all you sergeants, everybody wants to be in charge. If you're in charge, this is some of the work that you have to do. You're going to give your fire team a designated series of kill zones that they're, area of controls. Your squad leader is going to be given the task along with your platoon leaders. They're supposed to control this area. It is the job of the squad leader and the platoon leaders to determine how best to control the piece or, of real estate or the front that they have at their disposal. From that point forward, the individual fire team leaders and the squad leaders, their mission is to make sure that each man understands his area of control / areas of fire. Now, you do that at night, and you get used to doing that. It becomes SOP, Standard Operating Procedure. Guys, the quicker you get into the niche and understand that, the less of a threat you feel even in darkness. It doesn't mean that you aren't threatened. It doesn't mean that it isn't lethal. I mean, there's equal opportunity dying time on the battlefield. Throw that garbage out. Well, they can kill us. Yeah, they probably plan on doing that. They bought uniforms. They've got guns. They got government money for more bullets. Yes, they probably can plan on killing you. They'd like you to just put your hands up and they can walk you over to a ditch and blow your brains out. But instead, if you decide that maybe my life's worth something, how about you fight for it? How about you fight for it because you like the person next to you or your family behind you? And we'd prefer that we not all end up in a ditch dead at the hands of the New World Order or these globalist punks or the Jewish mob that thinks it's going to kill everybody.
Hey, Mark.
How about we get rid of them first? See, but by doing that, we have to be prepared and willing to deal with the problem. And that means we also face life. Life's a contest. I've told you before, if some of you are now having that epiphany, congratulations, you're in the contest. Ed, I think, is Edward there? I'll tell you what, Edward, Jethro Tull, Bungle in the Jungle. Jethro Tull. Edward, if you could, music request for the bottom of the hour. Talking about music, okay? And it is Communications Tuesday. Bungle in the Jungle by Jethro Tull. Ed, if you could cue that up for this hour, that would be great. We'll play it here in a minute for the bottom of the hour music break.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, go ahead, jump in there.
Well, have you heard of Gwen Towers?
Oh, hold on. Stay right there. Pay attention to the words to this particular song. Jethro Tull, Ian Anderson on the float. And he who made kittens put snakes in the grass. Yeah, just a little heads up. Remember, again, we don't know God's schedule. In fact, we're not supposed to. It's not in our mission statement. Okay, we're supposed to pay attention. And again, we're in the competition, people. Now, how well you do is a matter of whether or not you let somebody baffle you with BS and try to put you into the loser mode. And that isn't going to happen in my camp, as far as I'm concerned. In fact, I actually have decided, I really do believe this, that the old German crowbar school of management just is probably going to be necessary a lot of times. I've done a lot of things with a lot of people, and if we don't plug the American management system back in fact, if we do, if you really did, you want to win this war, do you really want to win this war? Would you like to win this war? Then make a decision. Be responsible. In fact, let's embrace the American management system. I know we got Phyllis waiting there, and everybody, hold on for a second. I watched this. We have this. They're spending money that government drops from the sky wherever they can, right? And all over this area, we got these idiot walk paths, which is fine. It keeps them busy. That's fine by me. And it's all this instant gratification stuff, but they're all being made with womanized wood, okay? There are miles of these paths around Ann Arbor where they've done these things, and of course, they it ain't the razor, it's the blades. They build this stuff up, they put it in place, and then maintenance, what's that? Preventive maintenance, what's that? And so you've got all these wooden walkways and bridges, and they've become infested with, for instance, yellow jackets, overgrown with vines. They got tree cover coming. They're muggers' paradises, actually. This is really fascinating. And areas that some of them are just totally abandoned. Nobody walks on them. You can tell because the creeper vines are now going across the boards, that are the walkway, and there's not even a path where somebody at least has commonly walked through there. Well, they put a bunch of them up here on Dexter. We got one that they put in over on Baker Road, right by the old high school. And it's a joke. I always call them the bridge on the River Kwai because they're grossly over-engineered. Nobody's ever going to drive a truck on them, but by God, you could if we actually, and they are technically, wide enough for a small vehicle, but that's not what they're intended for. But they just go to town on these things. Well, today they finished construction the other day, a couple days ago, and the committee of monkeys were there with all their papers and clipboards, and there was a dozen stinking people to go, and they were looking at the gate and the fence, and look at the safety bars, and guys, it's a womanized board walkway with steel fence side rails. And there's a whole stinking committee of monkeys that had to be there. I guarantee there was $500,000 worth of salary standing there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet none of them make under $80,000 a year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is Washtenaw County in Michigan, and that means goofy communism extraordinaire. And they're all standing there looking at it's like in the past to be like, yep, we got it done. We're all set. Yep, boss, you like it. Boss likes it. Thumbs up. American management system. Let's get on to doing other things. But instead, we have to have the follow-up committee of Soviet monkeys. And of course, and of course, I guarantee they went back. They had special bagels. They had, cream cheeses of 3 flavors. They had, herbal teas, maybe some, espresso, not regular coffee. That's for peasants, unless we were to be there. And then they'd have coffee for us. But, and don't touch the espresso if you can help it. Why don't you have some of the regular coffee? That would be if I was there. Somebody like me was there. But anyway.
Instant coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's an instant pack for you peasants. You take that one. But anyway, it's the epitome of what I've been talking about here. But you want to win? Employ the American management system and make a decisive decision, good, right, or indifferent. There's an old term, lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. Now, you apply that to most everything, but, here's the thing. If we want a committee of monkeys, walk away from it. Seriously, it'll get you killed. It's like, because what will happen is procrastination, and the committee will always fail because they have to find the consensus, warm, fuzzy solution, which typically will not require any conflict or, let's just say, risk, especially if they might be the ones having to take the risk. Okay, whereas with the American management system is you make a decision, you apply that process. If you were right, congratulations. And by the way, before you apply it, you probably should really, 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 really look to see whether or not it makes any sense. But if you decisively act that way, you cut down all of your operations time, Your energy is focused, and you can do more with the energy that you have. You want to win on the battlefield? That's how you win. And I'm watching this, and it's like everybody, guys, I mean, we've talked about this is the biggest problem in the American War for Independence when we started out, but it is an issue we can address now and fix. When the war started out, had the Americans had just a little more middle management cooperation, you do realize that not a British soldier should have come back from Lexington and Concord. They were outnumbered. It's acknowledged 23 to 29,000 men responded that day and were shooting at British soldiers. They only had a couple of thousand targets to shoot at. With a little more expertise, none of them would have returned to Boston. Not one of them. That's where you need to be when our April 19th comes around here, whatever date it happens to be for this war. Decisive. In fact, the basic rule, make a decision, move on it. This is something they try to teach young officers. Well, make a decision. Well, I don't know what to do. Indecisiveness can keep you in a kill zone and make you dead. Any action puts you in motion, and at least in motion you can make further decisions. Always remember that. But indecisive, or, again, we just want to die. Well, do you want that kind of a person? I'm going to ask everybody. I've been listening to a lot of this garbage that's showing up right now again in the Patriot broadcasting. And I'm going to, well, it's the end and we're doomed. Why are you listening to that person? Why? Why? Well, we're all going to be vacillating and agonizing, and, we're going to be rubbing our wounds, and lamenting and gnashing of teeth and running of hair and defecating our spines out our bungholes. Okay, guys, stop all of that. Period. Now,
the people that are saying that, Mark, those are the ones that are getting the little brown envelopes.
Yeah, the siren song. That's the siren song. Again, remember, we're Americans. We're supposed to act like Americans. And that means that once we do this, okay, you also do take risks. There are points where where the numbers are irrelevant, okay? Let me point something out. And I've said this many times, and I'm going to do this again. Everybody always wants to be special this, special that, seal this, whatever that. Well, let me ask you something. Do you think those people play it safe? What is it? What is the decisive element of the person that they select for a group like that? The one thing is, now I won't say if they're reckless abandon, but they are willing to risk and press to the limit. If you apply that same science, you can build whole armies like that. But the problem is, if you have the naysaying, and it comes down to morale factor. It comes down to discipline. And again, I'm not talking about the hell with it, who cares? Pull up the saber, we will charge into the cannon. That is not what I'm talking about. We're talking about intelligent surgical aggressiveness applied with intelligence to a degree that, again, it's amazing what you can accomplish. You guys all have that capability. They just don't want anybody to think that way. You create these express disciplines or these limited disciplines so that you can use that force and then ridicule it and destroy it later, because if it were to come back into the population, there isn't anything you couldn't accomplish. That's why America was so great for so long, really was great for so long. You know what? You buy into it and you take your chances. That's how you're supposed to be working. In other words, you take risks. There are situations where you do take risks. You calculate it, you look at it and go, if we push it this way, we do this, we accomplish this, we can reach this goal. But everybody's got to be focused and everybody's got to do it right. We've got to do it now. And that means every swing and dink's got to be on the same page. We're going to do this. We're going to do it right. And by the way, that's the same with business. That's why American business, also we had standards. Those standards were very, very high. It's why everybody wanted American. Not American because it came from America. They wanted American because it was made by Americans. With a very much a
quality too, Mark.
Yeah, well, quality. Okay, well, there's an old
quality because people had pride in what they were doing.
Pride in performance. The key to success, pride in performance. I will put my name on this. Exactly. See, that's one of the things that we used to do. I always watch for that. I'll tell you what I've been getting recently, and I mentioned this quite a bit on the air, but I just got another machine shop, basically from a tool and die man, I believe, is probably from pre-World War II to maybe the 60s. He probably passed away here in the last 2 years, okay? I found some things, and Dar's going to say, a couple of people are going to see this. What's interesting is what I found on some of the tools. But one of the things that they teach you as a tradesman is your name goes on everything, your initials or your names. Now it's also to make sure somebody doesn't steal your stuff. Okay. I really want it back. I want that back. Yeah, okay. I really want it back. No, I mean, seriously, I want it back. But you got to remember that a lot of, when you're talking tool and die and machinists, it's especially from that window or any earlier time, and I've said this many times on the airs, guys, remember, when you were a tradesman, you were an apprentice. And what your master is supposed to do as a master tradesman is teach you all of the basics, enhancing his job in the process, because as an apprentice, you're going to do a lot of the menial, lesser work that frees up his time and skill to focus on the more intricate elements of the trade. So there is a copacetic, there is a symbiotic process going on. You learn the basics through repetition and repetition, just like everybody goes, "Ooh, the Far East and the monks and the Buddhists, they only had this." My ass. We had always had this, and that's part of it's part of all cultures, really. But Western civilization took it to the nth degree and perfected it with technologies.
And there wasn't the, I'm going to hold back on teaching this person because they might take my job.
No.
They did that because they knew that they were likely going to do the finishing touches on it, and they wanted the base unit that they got from the person to be in decent shape so that they could be proud to put their name on it.
Because another way to live is by passing on what you know, so that you can, in fact, even produce a better product person if possible. Not need be, if possible. That your student might excel beyond anything that you expected because you picked the right person, and that person is motivated. Hard chargers are what you're looking for. Hard chargers should be treated like gemstones. And they start out in the rough. Some not so much. Some, it's again, skill. Some things, he's a natural. You've heard that term. With metal, with people working in steel, here's one of the things that I can show you physically over and over again. Is the tradesman, the student, had to build his own tools, guys. We don't see this anymore, not the way we used to. All of the tools, by the time a tradesman was done, all the tools as an apprentice that step by step he needed to work for the master to get the job done, was building up that man's toolbox that he would need to replace his master. And by the time he was done, there's two things that took place. You increased the profession and the trade, building up working knowledge and a skill base that would be larger and stronger within your society, to the point where progressively you are a dynamic energy/force. I've said this for years. We have been betrayed by a bunch of half-wit pigs who are from outside the United States, who targeted our population to destroy that working base. That's why I'm disgusted with every one of these pieces of these half-wits. I mean, seriously, we're letting hairball coughing nincompoops make decisions that they have no business being anywhere near and should never have been allowed to step up to. Period. I don't care who the hell they are. Well, they're a politician. No, they should be dead. Seriously, as far as I'm concerned, because again, what we've got is we're now at the point where battle is the only option we have, which is a waste of resources and time. War is a consumptive. War is at the very least, is a neutral spinning your wheels cycle. You do get benefits, but the destruction of energy and resources that could have been applied to advancement, true advancement in peace, are going to be lost in the cycle because it is a compression of consumption. Otherwise, it would have taken 20, 30 years to burn the same amount of material at a regular pace, and it would have been done usefully. It would have been building. There would have been something that would be a monument. There would be a construction. There would be a building. There would be a bridge. There would be a steel fence. There would be a fence post. There would be something. instead of the idiocy and the lunacy of conflict unneeded, which is where we are.
Mark.
It has been intentionally created, and why we have to fight it is because we have to save ourselves from it. That's where our problem is here. By God, your life is at risk. Your family's life is at risk. Our nation is at risk. We have to get rid of these bastards for that very reason. Go ahead. Jump in there, caller, please.
A fifth column enemy in a suit is no less dangerous than somebody in battle fatigues with a rifle.
Exactly.
And they deserve the exact same treatment.
Hey, let's go to something right now. Have you noticed how these peckerwoods are all mouthing about NAFTA and GATT, counting on the idea that you're all going to be stupid? And what I mean by that is this. I'm going to go back. I want to challenge everybody, all you Republicans out there that might be listening, or Republicrats, okay? When you hear people mouthing about, yeah, Bill, they start and then they idle down and shut up. They can't get too deep. Was it Bill Clinton or George Herbert Walker Bush that was pushing NAFTA and GATT, people?
It was Bush.
It was George Herbert Walker Bush who was shoving NAFTA up America's arse. And Rush Limbaugh, and I told you, I've warned everybody that all this, he's been around, he's conservative. No, he's not. He's a mouthpiece for the Soviets. Okay, all of these characters are. Like I said, what's the difference between Stalinism and Leninism? Absolutely nothing except for the title block. Okay? Back when NAFTA and GATT was being pushed through, and it was being promoted, it was, in fact, again, we have the video on VHS here that was done by the UAW. It showed Bill Clinton in his suit, and he's walking along past the ivory towers of Washington, D.C., and he's going down the walkway near the Capitol building. A vote for Bill Clinton is a vote against NAFTA. Vote for Bill Clinton to stop NAFTA. George Bush wants NAFTA and GATT. Guys, we were all there when this happened. So when you hear all these people now, Trump's so smart. Trump was right there with George Herbert Walker Bush supporting NAFTA and GATT. And they figure they wait long enough. You're all so we're not brain dead. You're not brain dead, but they think you're also brain dead. You're not going to remember this. But at the very least, I'll be your living memory on this. I'll jog your memory on this. And everybody went, everybody was a Republican that was the party goose stepper. Oh, George Bush didn't get in, NAFTA and GATT didn't make it. And all of a sudden, what happened 3 weeks later? Well, no, it took a total of, 60 days. What's the third thing that Bill Clinton signed in? NAFTA and GATT. And so what do? Oh, Bill Clinton signed NAFTA and GATT. Guys, if George Herbert Walker Bush had been in there in the first week and a half to 2 weeks, NAFTA and GATT would have been in, and he would have been riding the wave that he set up 25 years earlier when he went to China before Henry Kissinger and before Richard Nixon. Remember, Nixon went to China. But in order
Mark,
for Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, hey, I want to jump in and I'd like to second something you just said just a couple minutes ago about how machinists working with steel used to have to make all their own tools. I'll tell you how much we have lost. I have a South Bend lathe booklet for high school kids back in the 1930s.
Oh, yeah.
And in the 1930s, for shop class, for high school kids, the last two projects was a centrifugal pump, and the last project was a quarter-horse gasoline motor. And you were to make those two items, but up to those last two projects, the center punches, the measuring tool, the ball-peen hammers, everything that you needed to make those two projects was made first. So all the kids had all of that tooling made, so that when they got to the last two projects, they could make that centrifugal pump and that quarter-horse gasoline motor. Now, the only thing, Mark, they had to buy was a spark plug and a spark box, and maybe a piece of wire. That's how much we've lost, people.
And it was high school or junior high.
Yeah,
most of it you learned in junior high, and again, the machinery that I had at my disposal, and I was on the way tail end of that. That was back in the 60s. The shop that we had then, I would kill. I won't kill anybody for it, but you know what I mean. I'd have died for it because I always looked at it as like, how in the hell do I use this? And again, well, here's the other thing, guys. That includes making any gears or worm drives needed as part of the subassemblies.
Well, those kids made crankshafts.
Right.
Now, it was a very simple crankshaft, god-awful, stupid simple, but you know what that pump was for and that gasoline motor was for? It's so the kids could go home and, like if they lived on the farm, they could pump fresh water to stock and to water gardens and improve their lives. That's what that was for.
Yep.
And yet today we've got people, this is one reason why I have, some of my own tools now is because you go to a machine shop now and a guy cuts a keyway or he builds a shaft up and turns it down, and they think they're machinists.
Example, little handbook from the same period, and I can look cross-eyed at it. It was a pocket gear drive and worm drive formula book, and every time I look at it, I go cross-eyed only because you understand that the math that you're looking at here was like my dad, like he was said, well, I only had an 8th grade education. Yeah, well, but he could do all of this. What we're all talking about, my dad did this, and in fact learned it after school, okay? But he already had the basics. He learned this after he had to leave school, after, again, he had to work because they needed to feed everybody during the Depression. Okay, he went, at a certain point he stopped going to school and had to work along with Grandpa and had to do something to feed everybody. Okay?
Yeah, and see,
and then still went on and did this. Yeah, still
we don't understand that to this level. Well, let me give an example. Locally where I live, there used to be a business called the oil field shop. This was before electricity. And in our local county, we had a lot of oil field. Well, they actually could cast iron. Okay? If they needed to repair something or make a head or make something for an old Fairbanks motor or something in the equivalent line, they just cast it. They had they were near a railroad track, and they had a lot of coal rung in because they had a steam engine, and they had a cupola there, or a way to melt iron, and they could melt literally several thousand pounds of iron at one time, which is unbelievable to me.
And they had mobile kilns. In fact, you're talking about the railroad, for instance, right there. They had mobile kilns for even rebuilding track in place.
Oh, I can believe that.
They could. In fact, that's with thermite. Remember, just as crude and rude. We'll go down the lower end of that. For most people don't realize, guys, the reason thermite was always so publicly accessible, it was the field welding tool. It was like a field welding torch. And they used to make dressing kits. I think I've got one laying around here somewhere. It was a dam that you put side by side on the rail if it got chipped. And you actually had I don't have the box. Larry, Sergeant Ellsworth used to have it, and God knows where it is. His kids got his inheritance. But you opened up the box, it looked like a cigar box. It had the formula, and you had thermite bar like tubes. And it told you how much in the way of iron filings to add, and then you mixed them together with the thermite. You poured it into, when you put the dam on either side of the track. And this is crude and rude, but this is normal, and this isn't even high tech. This is as low as we could get. But you would pour it in, and in the field, without taking the track up, you would literally forge it right there on the spot with the thermite. It would fill in. It would be slightly overloaded. You actually did a math formula to figure out what the volume was, and then you dressed it in the field, and then you were done.
They used to repair shafts like that. They would basically set up an area, but the thermite would heat up and then drop the hot metal down into it to fuse weld it.
Yeah, exactly. You would literally be making a field forge, a micro field forge. Now, these are all things we can still...
I still have the remnants of a power on my property from the early 1900s, and it's been stripped out, but some of it still exists, but they could cast. If they needed something, they just cast it. Green sand mold casting. They didn't have no problems. And actually what put them out of business, put this one, the oil field shop out of business, is South Bend when the electricity come through. South Bend come through and started selling everybody their own lathe. You could buy a 16 by 24 South Bend lathe for Oh, it'd be pennies today by our money, but it was like $200 or $300. And these companies, oil field companies, got to buying their own lathes. Even the school bought their own lathes, but no one ever got to where they could pour and cast their own stuff. But that's what we've lost.
Well, one thing, again, this is why we're bringing this up. It's part of the deep next level that we have to be at with regard to the war that's coming, guys. The other side figures that they have systematically stripped all of our industry down to the smallest level. We've been covering this for the last couple of years, and I know people that are at Smithy right now. They're just down the street. You know Smithy, you know that machine company, right?
Yeah.
And they flat out said that one of the things that was happening is they sell to little guys like you and me to set up little production shops. Well, the Chinese specifically targeted over the last 3 years small shop production output. And they told their people over there, no matter what, you undercut by 50% any bid on 50 items, 60, because it'd be ridiculous. He goes, it doesn't make any sense. But it does if you're waging economic war. And the purpose was to put down American small manufacturing at the lowest level so that there is no rebuild capability when they strike.
Well, they've done that.
Yeah.
And they've been very successful.
We can rally the technology, but we have to save everything that we can. And this is something that if you don't get religious on this, people, with everything that you're doing, and understand that you may not save everything, but you save what you can while you can, and do what you can. And if you can't be, it may not be perfect, but it'll be the start for what we have to go, what we have to roll
Mark,
through.
I have a quick question because I know we're running up the top of the hour, and I don't know how you'll do this, but I have a question. Are you aware of any tooling or anything to like grind your own like chamber reamers to cut the flute? Have any gauges or tooling? I mean,
the tooling to make that's where the machine. That's the tool and die. Where these tool and die shops, I should say the tool and die inventory that's there. Most of them like what just happened here. Okay, I just got probably what was the equivalent about $4,000 or $5,000 worth of cutters, reamers, and other what are tools to make tools. That stuff is out there. In fact, watch estate sales, especially right now. Well, we got one shop that we picked up, the guy's whole basement. He was had work for Ford, and he was doing prototyping because I have some of the stuff that we'd got, everything that was in that shop. Just one tool was $650 still price tag still on it. Yeah. I got cases, I got boxes of everything you can imagine for doing the prototype tooling work. And it's out there. It really is. It's hanging all over the place, but you're going to have to, you got to keep an eye out. I think our biggest problem is that most of the people who don't have a clue about any technology are given the task of clearing out these sites. And I just the thought, God knows how much in the way of vast fortunes of machinery have gone to the scrap or the dump.
Oh, it'll scare you to death.
I caught by accident this one collection only because I saw a grinder in a freebie thing, and I went over and the grinder wasn't there, but then I realized, wait a minute, they got more stuff in the driveway. And then looking around the corner, I found out, oh no, the whole garage is full and the basement. I got everything out of the basement, but I got it for free. And it was like they kept going, well, would you want this? Well, what about this? It's like, well, okay, let me settle it this way. Anything that you don't want, and they go, oh, we don't want any of this. Anything that you don't want, I'll get out of here for you. You don't have to lift a finger. You can focus on the rest of your job.
Well, that's what we have to do now, Mark, because, see, like, you take a bolt-action rifle. Okay, the old cock-on closing was really simple, but when you had the canning areas on a bolt rifle when you lift the bolt, you're actually at partial extraction, and it aids in extraction and loading. Okay, that tool there used to be an indexing jig. It was common as snot all over the place that allowed you to cut that canning area, because it's got a slight arc and a twist to it too, and it goes together. You can't find that, and the only way people can do that now is with CNC stuff, and they can't find that tooling. And like my lathe, you know that my lathe actually was set up to turn crankshafts, but I can't find the daggone adapter. I mean, what's a crankshaft lathe worth?
I'll tell you what, the place to watch, actually, the same thing can do a crankshaft can also do a barrel.
That's true.
Crankshafts are higher tech, but barrels are a lot simpler, and there are so many different ways to build barrels, which, guys, we're going to need all of this and more. Real quick, though, keep an eye, go through and scour Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. Craigslist is not doing the same as they used to, but Facebook Marketplace, for the time being, is the place to go to sweep, in fact, type in every kind of search you can think of, and then go through and just look for it. Lathes, right now, there's one here in town. It'll do everything you're talking about doing, $250, and there are 5 boxes of tooling underneath it.
Okay, each of those boxes could be worth more than $250.
Oh, they're worth more than the tooling itself, the cut off components.
Each box, because you take like my lathe came with a 12-inch, can't remember. Anyhow, it came with a 12-inch bison chuck, and the chuck just needed cleaned on the scrolls. And but that chuck when I bought it was worth $700, and that was like 20 years ago. So I mean, it doesn't take a lot in tooling to add up into a tremendous amount.
Yeah, it ain't the razor; it's the blades. Although again, even part of the razor is still, like you're saying, this is our problem. We assume that there's going to be more of that. I'm not going to grab that. Guys, if it looks like it's even remotely attached to any of the pieces of machinery that you're looking at, you grab it all. That should be the first rule. Well,
I'll tell you, because I know we're at 6 o'clock now, at the top of the hour, but I'll tell you, if anybody goes anywhere and you find any broken drill bits, if there's any flute left whatsoever on it, pick them up. Don't worry about it.
We can always make them work. Plus, I can also use that drill stock for other work too. That's a hell of a cross pin. Remember, it'll just be in a different dimension. I might need that one pin. It may get the one job done I need done, so I can make something work.
You can also take a drill bit and grind it into an end mill for temporary use too, for oddball sizes.
Exactly.
People don't know that.
Yeah, nothing goes to waste, and everything is used for its first purpose, but to a lesser degree until it can no longer be purposed that way, and then it's repurposed to another task. That's how you make
right.
That's how you make things work. God bless our republic.
Death to the New World Order.
The New World Order.
We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The empire is on the run.
And we're on the march both day and night.
Yeah, we're on the march both day and night. Kill them
all points of the compass, people. Everybody, you got to get focused. The bad guys are in motion. Every day they're going to be more frothing at the mouth and insane. And again, like I said, I've seen too much of Joe Biden by accident, only because I was trying to see something else you sent me information on. And I'm pretty well knowing it's Twilight Zone time. We're finished. The election's done. It's out of the way and gone. All we got to do is get ready for whichever switch they try to pull to hurt us all, and we hurt them back harder. God bless y'all, and get out of the way. Ed taking over. More LTR coming up. Don't touch that dial. We'll be back at 8. Bye-bye.
This session is no longer being recorded. Goodbye.